guys and gals and non-binary pals. I'm Zannah,
And I'm Jason.
and this is Nerd Initiation, where my best friend here teaches me everything I need to know on this journey of nerd enlightenment. Come with us. How are we doing today, Jason?
I'm doing pretty great. How about you?
I'm doing all right. Today it's a good day. It's beautiful. It's sunny. It's warm, and it can't complain.
For our listeners, Zannah did air quotes when she said warm. Now, Zannah, if you want to elaborate.
Well, it's warm for the Midwest. It's like going to be in the 50s-ish today, which is amazing and air quotes warm. But to California standards, it's maybe not so warm, but that's okay.
I get what you mean. I talked to my son yesterday, who's in Alabama. They were at 85 degrees yesterday. And I was like, I'm not ready for anything like that yet. But I
Lucky
did like
bitch.
it earlier in the week. In Michigan, it was like 70. And that was nice.
It got to about like mid 60s to where I was, and it was nice. It's flip-flop weather, and anybody that knows me, I love my flip-flops. I don't like to confine my feet to shoes, but I have cute shoes, so it's fine. But I
I
love my
like
flip-flops.
I like flip-flop weather, but
Yeah.
I don't have a pair. Well, I have one pair, but I haven't worn them in years. Um, People don't want to see my feet. And it's not that they're necessarily ugly. It's just that they're like blinding white.
And they're guy feet. I don't know what it is, the difference
But
between guy and girl feet. Anyway, I'm not getting on this
there is
subject with you.
there is a difference.
I'm not getting on this subject with you.
That's fair.
Well, anyway, transition.
I am noticing you're in a different setting, Zannah. Do you want to tell everybody where you're at right now or what you're doing?
I'm on a mini vacay for myself. No, I'm hanging out with my very, very true bestest friend, Wyatt Ever.
Hey everyone.
Nice to
Hi.
see you.
That's Wyatt.
Wyatt, thanks for letting Zannah use your Netflix information. Or
No problem.
as some of you may recall, we mentioned that in our first episode, how Wyatt helped you out with that.
Yeah, I was
And
telling him about that because somebody didn't watch that episode. So I was telling him that I called him out.
well, remember, yeah, the biggest issue was you couldn't watch Cobra Kai for some
Because I
reason,
couldn't
and that
watch Cobra
was
Kai.
upsetting
Yes.
for everybody.
But it finally opened after I called it out, and I was able to watch it, and it was amazing, and I'm very glad I did.
Did you finish it?
No, I did not finish it.
Are you still season 2?
Mm-hmm. I'm at
Yeah.
the end of season.
So did you see the season finale of season 2?
What was the season? No, I don't know. I don't remember.
The massive brawl in the high school.
Yes, I did. Yes, I did. I watched that. See, it's hard to know what episode you're on when you're just binging something. Because when you're binging it, you don't necessarily look at, each episode. You're just like, oh, the story's continuing. So I don't know where I am, who I
Because
am, what I'm doing in my life. I have no idea. Just
you're
binging.
not seeing it as a season drops. You're just going into it episode by episode.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, but wasn't that like an episode just so full of emotions?
Absolutely. All the emotions.
I'll tell you, it was difficult for me to sleep after watching that. I was so hyped up.
You want to go learn karate now?
Yeah, will you teach me?
Yeah, I haven't been in karate for like over 20 years, no, I'm only 31, so maybe like 15 years.
It's been a
Anyway,
while.
I'm out of shape. Well, I guess round is a shape, so I am out of shape.
What nerdy things have you been up to this week?
I hate when you ask me this question because I don't know.
Yeah, you do. What stuff have you watched or read or
I've
you
actually,
know?
Well, I took a break from Cobra Kai to watch Psych, so I've just been watching a lot of Psych.
I'm not familiar with Psych.
It's like a spoof off The Mentalist. He uses his he's over observant and very highly logical, and he just puts things together, but he pretends that he's psychic
Whoa,
to help the police department.
that sounds like a cool concept.
It's pretty funny. He's kind of dorky, and I kind of love it. But I like those kind of deductive reasoning kind of shows like Psych and The Mentalist and Sherlock Holmes. Anyway, so today we're going to be discussing our one of Jason's favorite topics I know is comics and your favorite comics and things like that. I personally only have about, I don't know, 10, 15 comics, and that's my entire stash. That's it. That's all I have that's measly compared to your 6,000 comics that you have because you're crazy. But in a good way. In a good way.
When you held up your little stack and you're like, this is all I have, I just wanted to say, okay, episode over, we're done. Yep, that's it.
Am I the little match girl of the comics world?
You're like little Oliver Twist, please, sir, could I have some more comics? Like the way you were holding them. Well, yeah, tell us about yours.
Well, mine are more unconventional. I don't have any superhero comics or anything like that. The first one that I have that you actually gifted to me, and I love them so much, are the Exorcisters. And mainly it's about a girl whose soul is cut in half and she's a demon hunter, which is fun. And it's pretty funny because the way that she's cut in half reminds me a lot of we've talked about her on the show, Jaden, our friend Jaden.
I knew you were going there.
Because look at this, is definitely me, and look at that is definitely Jaden. Look at the little skull earrings. I mean, I wear
and the wink
too, and the wink, and especially this one. Look at her stripy socks. That's so
the
Jaden.
Striped socks.
There's with the little skirt. That's definitely Jaden and I think that's pretty funny that they would have a comic of just my friend and I in book form. I mean, we fight demons all the time. Inner demons.
Remember when I gave you those? It was at your housewarming party 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And Jaden was there. That was actually when I first met Jaden after years of only hearing about the legend. And
there's a squirrel. Oh, I think he heard me. That was so cool. Anyway, sorry. Awesome. I got distracted by a squirrel right out the window.
Wow, that's a thing that happens.
He's eating a donut. That's adorable.
I had a cinnamon roll with my coffee. That was pretty good.
I haven't eaten yet. I'm just drinking my Monster.
You're getting your caffeine at least.
Wyatt and I have the same addiction to the same drink.
Oh, I remember him talking about his addiction.
I think his is worse though.
Didn't he have a mini fridge full of Monsters or something?
No. His actual fridge was full of Monster energy drinks.
His full size.
His full size fridge. I have a picture. I'll post it here.
That's so great.
I'm calling you out. It was my favorite thing ever. But honestly, honey, if I could have a fridge full of Monster, I would. Anyway, but yes, you gave this to me at my housewarming gift, and that's where you met Jaden.
That is where I met Jaden after years of hearing about the legend, and we had a great time. Our first meeting, I just had a great first impression of her. But one thing I distinctly remember is you handed over the comics so she could look at them, and she laid down on the floor of your place and kicked her feet up in the air with those striped socks, just like the character's wearing on that one cover. Mm-hmm. And it's like, yeah, she is so that character.
Right? It's pretty adorable. It's pretty cute. Love her so much. Yeah, so I actually just recently got these back from her after 2 years.
After 2 years.
She loves them too, which is great. But she actually, her and I were talking about it when I was getting these back because she has different comics too, like Lenore and like a lot of the gothy comics that are just adorable and Invader Zim and things like that, which we both
Yeah.
love too. I love Lenore and the little dead girl. She's so cute. And that's kind of where I am with my comics because I don't know. I don't have a lot of superhero comics, but I mean, she's kind of heroic. She fights demons. And then to my next one, what I have is Anita Blake, Vampire Hunter. She's kind of like a superhero because she fights demons of sorts. She also raises zombies. She's a necromancer. And
Well, it's a kind of superhero. They're just doing the dark arts.
the dark arts, yeah. She's pretty cool. Hers is like an innate ability that she can just raise the dead for funsies. But I have them in actual comic form, and actually I think these are bought by Marvel. Yeah, see, they're Marvel comics.
Yes. So they must have, Marvel had the license for that character, I guess, to make those probably. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think they worked with the author of the actual books because these are based off of a book series of the same name, Anita Blake. And God, there's like 40 books in that series, and it starts off amazing and it's great, and then like you get into like book 20 and it just goes off the rails and gets so crazy. And
Yeah, because when it's that long, what can you do at that point except double down?
Double down and just go ape shit. It's pretty funny. So I don't have the entire book series because after it gets crazy, I'm like, huh. And then I just started renting from the library because really I have multiple series with that many books in it that I own. I'm just like, maybe I shouldn't own them all. I'll just go rent them from the library because I love the library anyway. Why not just give them my business? It's fine. I don't have space.
Yeah. I went through something similar when I lived in Kalamazoo years ago. I lived not far from a library branch of the Kalamazoo Public Library. And there were times when I was short on money or like thinking about the space I had in my place then. And I was like, I'm just going to check stuff out and I could still read it and enjoy it.
Exactly.
So libraries are great for sure.
For sure. Everybody support your local libraries.
Read a book. Give a hoot, read a book.
That's right. Knowledge is power.
Oh, that's so awesome.
I know, right? But the fun thing about Anita Blake is not only does it come in the comic form, but you can get the series in book form, and each one correlates exactly with actually the written paperback book that came in, which is pretty fun. I just kind of like the artistry in it, kind of raw.
Yeah, that's great art. I think that's Brett Booth, right?
That's really bloody. How bloody that is.
Ooh.
He's an vampire. Anyway. What are we talking about? Who is it? Booth, yes.
The artist, yeah, Brett Booth. Yeah, he's excellent. He's a guy who started with Image Comics in the 90s. He's gone on to do a lot of stuff more recently for DC. I like his work.
I can't believe you just knew right off the top of your head who the artist was. That's insane.
I recognize the style.
That's like insane, like cool insane. But wow.
That could be a future episode. You get examples of comic art and I could try and guess who drew it.
Oh my gosh.
I bet I'd be almost 100%.
That would be fun, like a game show.
Yeah.
And then my turn, you can like play samples of Disney music and I can name that movie it's from.
Like I play with like 1 second of it, it's like, "Brr," and you're like, oh, Beauty and the Beast.
Yeah, Mulan. Duh. Little Mermaid. I know this.
Oh, that's
I want to
awesome.
be where the people are. Anyway,
Oh,
I don't
what
want to
a
be where people are. Social
what
distance.
yeah, that's like the opposite of like what we want now.
So that's literally my entire comic collection. That's it. That's what I have for you. My
Well,
little
I'll ask a few questions about it. You said you had gotten into the character Anita Blake from the original books, right?
yeah.
What led you to pick up the comics, and do you remember where you got them from?
I got the comics. I was at a Comic Con, and oh God, I was at a Comic Con. I was probably around 19 or 20, maybe 21. And I was just there with my friends, and I had no idea. And I looked over, and there it was like the first issue. It wasn't the books. I found the books later, but it was this first issue that caught me. And I just saw Anita Blake, and I was like, as in Anita Blake, because I had no idea that she was like doing comics. I thought it was just like the book series, which at that point I owned, which at that point I owned all of them. So it was totally like just out of the corner of my eye, I saw this title and I like stopped in my tracks, backed up. What is that? What are those? And
And
then
you heard the choir of angels like, oh.
so I ended up buying the first three that I could find, which are these three together at that one booth. And then I just kind of collected any other ones that I ever saw. I just grabbed, and I don't have any that's in order, except for like the big books, because then I have all of them. But
Yep.
I just they're not in order at all. Like I'm missing a lot of the like the book numbers or whatever, but I don't know. I just saw them, I bought them, and then anytime I saw them, I just grabbed them, whether I was at Comic Con, a comic shop, but they're very hard to come by. They're not very popular. It's just, creeps like me that like these ones. So
I would imagine a low print run kind of makes them a little scarce, a little difficult to track down, probably.
yeah,
And
which
it's
is
really
fine.
the enthusiasts like you and the other fans. You're all kind of scrambling to get what's out there.
Yeah, which is fine. It's just Jason, if you ever see Anita Blake, let me know and I'll
I
buy them for
will.
me.
No, I will. Next time I go to the comic book store, I'll look. And that was going to be my next question. Like some of those issues you have, the individual issues, like can you tell were they like just specific mini series? Like do they have different story names, or was it
Um,
kind of like a longer series with a sequential numbering, like 1 to 20?
so each of them corresponds to a book that she's written. Like the
Okay.
first book is Guilty Pleasures. So you can see it says Guilty Pleasures.
I'm gonna make
Um,
notes of some of this so I can remember.
and then this one, I have two. This one you can see is The Laughing Corpse, which is
Okay.
book two. I don't know if they got past book two because I only have the Guilty Pleasures and Laughing Corpse. And that's what I have in the hardback as well.
So you do have those completed stories then in those hardcovers.
In the hardcovers, but how cool is it to have it in the little ones too? I'm
It's cool to have
redundant,
the
I guess.
individual.
Yeah.
You're not the only one. A lot of comic collectors do that. And there's benefits to doing it that way. With the individual issues, you have the story as it's originally presented. You're going to have like ads. You're going to have maybe there's a letter column or a little note from the author, like stuff that the hardcovers may not necessarily have. With the hardcovers, you get the story all in one.
Mhm.
They might throw in extra material. Sometimes they put in behind the scenes stuff. Sometimes they touch up the coloring or art, make it look better, crisper. If
Yeah.
you're a fan of something, it doesn't hurt to have multiple
Everything.
versions. Because I have a
Complete
few
the
multiples.
collection. Yeah, no worries. So that is my entire comic collection. You dad. Please, Jason, can I have some more?
Do you know, that was my collection in 1989. I could hold them all in one hand, probably.
That's the year I was born.
That's the year I was 9. I think we're in the middle of making up a musical about the year 1989 now.
It's a good year. Because I came into the world.
Wasn't it the name of a Taylor Swift album?
Yeah, because she and I were born in the same year.
Because you and her are twins, right?
No. No. Nay. Thank you, Bailey Sarian.
So,
what's your favorite? What do you have for me today, Jason?
For you, well, let's just say collecting for over 30 years and having 6,000 comic books, it's hard to pick favorites because I love so many. I would have to break it down year by year and say, here are my top 10 comics of each year if I really wanted to do it like wholly wide encompassing everything. But I did just jot down a list of about 7 comics right now that are standouts to me. And I know with the way our show is, we'll elaborate on comics more in the future. So this is just a little taste, a little sampler of what I love. And yeah, just to give a little background again, for those who might not have listened or watched the first episode, I've been collecting comics since the fall of 1988. It started with Superman Volume 2, Issue 26. That's where he faces the voodoo villain Baron Sunday, who has a voodoo doll of Superman, and he sticks a pin in it while Superman's fighting these Thanagarian invaders. Thanagar is where the Hawk people are from in DC. They were part of an invasion alliance that was attacking Earth at the time. At the same time that Baron Sunday's like putting in this needle into Superman's chest. So then Superman crashes through the asphalt and disappears into the sewer and no one knows where he is.
Would the needle have to be like kryptonite for it to like affect him?
No, because I think because it's magic, they don't have to worry about that because he's affected by magic just like any mortal.
I think that's kind of the overall when you want to get around something, huh? Oh, his only weakness is kryptonite and magic. Like
yeah, it's like, oh, we could use that to explain a lot of things. It's like, oh, it's magic.
Yeah, it's magic. Oh, he's doing impossible feats? Totally magic.
Right. So, yeah, I still remember that first issue. I started collecting after that. And it seems like over the years, it's probably been 70% DC, 25% Marvel, and then 5% miscellaneous, I guess we'll say.
Mm-hmm.
I love both Marvel and DC, but I think DC has been more consistent for me over the years. But one of my favorite characters is Spider-Man. I do have a pretty decent sized Spider-Man collection. In fact, I think half of this list that I'm going to talk about is Spider-Man stuff. So
you and Jaden, man, that's her favorite too. That's why you clicked.
That's right. Yeah, that's how we clicked because we knew we were Spider-Man fans on the psychic level. Like somehow we sensed it.
We just knew. Your spidey senses were tingling.
Our spidey senses were tingling. Exactly.
Together.
That's the thing. So the first issue I'm going to mention as a favorite is Amazing Spider-Man Volume 1, Issue 252. Pause for comic image. So Amazing Spider-Man 252, it came out in 1984. I didn't get it when it came out because I was younger and I hadn't started collecting yet, but I got it as a back issue when I was 10, I think. What's significant about this issue is it's the first appearance of the black and white Spider-Man costume.
That later becomes Venom?
That later becomes Venom. which I love that costume. I love the design. I like when Peter Parker wore it. And that's the cool thing. Like, it sets up that he got the costume in another storyline called Secret Wars, where the Marvel superheroes like teamed up together to take on the Beyonder, who was like a cosmic entity. So they explain how he got it in that story. In Amazing Spider-Man 252, it's just him coming back to Earth after that story was over, and he's got this costume that can do all this cool stuff.
Ooh.
Like it could generate and shoot its own webbing. He didn't have to use his web shooters anymore. It could like morph on and off of him. He could use mental thoughts to like change the appearance of it. Like it could look like any type of clothes. What he was told at the time was it was synthetic, like highly technological, like alien fibers that could mimic all this stuff.
But it's magic.
It wasn't even magic. What he later ended up finding out was it was a living entity, a symbiote. It tried bonding with him, and with the help of the Fantastic Four, they separated the entity from him and kept it contained. And then it escaped, where it then bonded with a journalist named Eddie Brock, and that's how we got Venom.
Venom, yeah. Interesting.
Yeah.
Have you seen the Venom movie?
I did not see the Venom movie yet. No, I've heard good things. Have you seen Venom?
No, I haven't. I really wanted to, and then forgot to go do it, because if you and I don't see it, I forget to do it.
You know what I remember about that is I think that came out right before you moved back to Michigan.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but you're my movie buddy. So if I don't go see movies with you, who am I going to go see movies with?
I'll find where it's streaming, and at some point we'll get together, and we should have that on our list along with Mannequin.
Yeah, sounds good. All right, that's great. Yeah, because you're my movie buddy. You don't mind when I talk to you during movies and make fun of it. I like.
No, we have fun. Yeah, at the movies.
Yeah, I'm not a very popular person to see movies with, because I make little quips and I talk during movies, which I know is a huge pet peeve to most people. So thank you for being my movie buddy.
That shit's funny.
Yeah. I make the movie experience better. Come on, people.
At least you're not like my sister, who's all like, "Who's that? What's that? What are they doing?
What's going on?
What's going on?
Happening?
Look. It's like, pay attention."
Yeah, I'm paying attention. I'm just putting in little quips to make fun of it.
Yeah, that's perfectly fine.
So I know it's not a very popular thing to do, but I do it because I'm cool with it. It's fine.
So to wrap up on that Spider-Man issue, he went back to his red and blue costume after he got rid of the living costume.
Mm-hmm.
But he eventually got a fabric version of the black and white one. And I think he wore it all the way up until maybe 1987 or 8. So maybe 3 or 4 years where he had that costume. Occasionally in the newer issues, he'll bust it out and wear it again. I just love seeing it. I love him in it. Because it just kind of reminds me, there's like a nostalgia to it. It kind of reminds me of my childhood, because that's what he had when I first started getting into comics. So
yeah. So that you got into comics when Spider-Man was having his goth phase?
Pretty much.
to quote our friend here, used to be means never was. It's not a phase, Mom.
Oh, that's awesome.
I'm still in my goth phase. It's fine. It's my whole life.
Yeah, it wasn't just your teen years. It was every year.
It was every year.
You went from Power Rangers phase to goth phase.
Yeah, it transitioned pretty easily, if you think about it.
It makes sense.
It makes sense, right? Yeah.
So next on my list is the 1986 Man of Steel miniseries, which was a 6-issue limited series written and drawn by John Byrne, where he revamped the character of Superman to make him more modern for those modern times of the mid 80s. Right.
More air
So
quotes.
those are more air quotes, listeners.
Yeah.
So it's a cool idea. For those of you who don't know a lot about the history of Superman, he debuted in 1938. So at that point, he'd been around 48 years, 48 years of stories, hundreds of issues, between the various titles, appearances, and other titles.
He just needed some rebranding.
He just needed a refresh. Like,
Refresh.
he had accrued a lot of barnacles, a lot of weird story ideas that were kind of like, I guess some of the modern readers felt were a little outdated or old fashioned. You know, when the character started out, he was very simple. He wasn't super powerful. Like, he was strong. He was invulnerable, like a bullet couldn't pierce him, and he could leap tall distances. That was it.
In a single bound.
That's right. Leap tall buildings in a single bound, not fly. Like, he didn't fly at first. And what he did was he would take on like corrupt politicians and gangsters, and it was more street level. But then as World War II happened, and then you go into the 50s, and the whole sci-fi boom happened, they started attributing more and more powers to him, and then more of a backstory to what Krypton was like and what his childhood was like. When he started out, he became Superman as an adult, but then a few years later, they're like, oh no, he was actually Superboy as a teenager. Like, they kept tweaking the story, adding stuff to it. You know, in the 50s, they gave him a female cousin named Kara Zor-El, Supergirl.
Supergirl.
He got Crypto, the super dog. There are all kinds of super animals. Just all
I
this
rem-
stuff.
I remember
Multiple
Crypto.
colors, multiple colors of the rainbow kryptonite. I mean, it was crazy.
And they all did something different to him.
That's right. Yes. Red kryptonite would mutate him. Like, he would look different for 24 hours. Like, he'd have a giant ant head, or stuff like that. But yeah, all the different kryptonites, as we know, green would kill him. There was white kryptonite, which would only destroy plant life. Blue kryptonite only affected Bizarros. Gold kryptonite took away his powers permanently.
Oh.
There was a silver kryptonite, I think. I don't remember what it did. But obviously, you get into all this minutia, it's a lot of stuff to remember. When DC did their Crisis on Infinite Earth series, which we talked about before, they used it as an opportunity where they now had this new Earth with all the characters from the different Earths in one spot. They're like, we could also, if we're saying we're tweaking the timeline, we could make it so all those old stories never happened and just have Superman start with a new origin that's just kind of updated. So all that aforementioned stuff, the animals, the kryptonite, it was all thrown out.
Thrown out the window.
He still had all of his powers, but they even got rid of the idea of Superboy. They said he was never Superboy.
Oh.
He became Superman as an adult.
As an adult? No, well, what about like things like the show Smallville and things like that? I mean, he wasn't technically an adult. He was in high school, right? I mean, I think in that show he showed signs of having all of his powers as a kid, but they didn't fully develop until he was like a teenager, if I remember correctly in that show, right?
That's right, yeah. In fact, that show borrowed a lot from the Man of Steel miniseries in those comics of the 80s and 90s. In the what we'll call the pre-crisis Superman era, when he came to Earth as a baby, he had all of his powers right away. But in those Man of Steel and after post-crisis comics, they developed gradually until he was like probably his senior in high school, he started having all of them. So Smallville took that idea too. Smallville also never put him in a costume and said he was Superboy, but he would do stuff in secret, you know, like where he would move really fast and no one could see what he's doing. That was from the Man of Steel series as well. There were all these headlines that would appear in newspapers saying mysterious angel saves child from accident or something like that.
Yeah.
Because it was Superman working in secret.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's
So
pretty cool.
Man of Steel. Basically, it set the foundation for the next, I'll say, 20 years of comics in Superman, where they worked off of those story ideas. And I'm trying to think if there was anything else different. I think they made Lois Lane a little scrappier. Like they said that her dad was a military guy, and he raised her to be tough like a guy, so she could like handle herself in any like situation.
Yeah, you go, girl.
Yeah, that's
Girl
right.
power.
Kick ass Lois.
That's right.
I'm forgetting the biggest thing. They really tweaked Lex Luthor. So his origin pre-crisis was he was Superboy's friend in Smallville, which I think they did on the show as well. They knew each other in Smallville. And what happened, I'm gonna laugh as I say this origin because it's kind of hokey, but they were buddies, and Luthor offered to make an antidote to like help cure him of kryptonite poisoning if it ever happened to him. So Luthor's working on that, but then there's a fire in his laboratory because he's a teen scientist or whatever. Superboy blows out the fire, but he caused chemicals to go onto Luthor's head, which made his hair fall out and he went bald.
Oh, is that like the whole story of why Lex Luthor hates Superman? Because he went bald? That's it?
Because he made him go bald. That's it.
What?
Can you see why they decided, let's get rid of that?
I mean, I get loving your hair and things like that, and it could be a part of you, but you can't just like I don't know, it seems a bit far-fetched to have like your whole life rivalry with this like godlike creature just because you're bald now. Like, just you could like accept it. Like, there's a lot of people who like love that look or whatever.
That's true. Yeah.
You could embrace it and be like, all right, cool, thanks.
But he decides to try and destroy this man who made him go bald.
Who made him go bald? God.
So what the Crisis ended up doing, in which they elaborated on in the Man of Steel miniseries, by changing the timeline, Luthor was he was older than Superman by, I'd say, a good 20 years. He'd never lived in Smallville. He had grown up and lived in Metropolis his whole life. He was not a criminal in the sense of he would rob banks and get arrested. They had actually turned him into like a tycoon, like a multi-billionaire industrialist, who committed crimes, but then would just have his lawyers cover it up or get him out of trouble or whatever. He was basically untouchable that way because he was super rich. So Superman comes to Metropolis, and Luthor's like, okay, what can I do about this situation? Because Metropolis is like my turf.
Yeah.
So he has a terrorist attack staged on one of his yachts where Clark Kent and Lois Lane were attending like a party. Superman shows up, stops the terrorists, but then finds out that Luthor was behind it the whole time, and Luthor offered him a deal. He's like, I want you to be on my payroll. Like, I will pay you money to work for me and be my security guy. And Superman's like, I'm not for hire. And he's like, what you did was illegal. And he's like, I'm arresting you. So Superman takes him to jail. And this billionaire has to get fingerprinted and booked and mugshotted and all that. And he got out within 24 hours or whatever.
Right.
But on the steps of the courthouse, he's like, you've just made an enemy for life. Like, this town used to be mine and it's going to be again. And I will find a way to stop you. So that became the origin in the later comics.
I mean, I guess it makes more sense, but at the same time,
it's a little more plausible.
It's a little more plausible, but at the same time, like, I mean, Superman arrested him for his own actions. So is he just mad because he had to face the consequences of his own actions, and that's why he's now set up a whole lifelong rivalry? Is because he had to face consequences for his own actions?
It's kind of absurd too. I think the bigger picture part of it is Luthor felt threatened by this guy that he couldn't buy. He could
Yeah.
buy anybody in that town, up to and probably including the mayor. Even though I think in that issue, the mayor was like, I stand with Superman, like, you do need to be arrested.
Yeah.
So Superman wouldn't play ball with them.
Okay. Spoiled much? Jeez.
Right?
But so in this case, he has like an infinite amount of money. So he's like the evil Batman type of thing, where he's just doing crimes with all of his money instead of trying to save people with all of his money.
Yes, very much so. And I remember there is an issue where like the newer version of Luthor meets Bruce Wayne at a party, and it was really cool to see like two rich guys shaking hands, but they're so different.
Yeah.
And this is where the public at large, they didn't see Luthor as a villain. Like only Superman and a handful of like other people, like some reporters like Lois and a few cops, knew that he was bad. Like the public loved him because they saw him as like a job creator. He was like the main economic power behind Metropolis.
Yeah.
What I found out later is that John Byrne and Marv Wolfman was the other writer who came up with this new concept. They based him a little bit on Donald Trump.
That's why he's the villain, because he's Donald Trump.
Yeah, Trump, who was known back then as like the biggest real estate guy in New York in the 80s.
It makes sense that he's a villain then.
And there is
Roman shade.
there's a photo we could show. There's a comic called The Unauthorized Biography of Lex Luthor, and it's a painted cover of him posing. Swear to God, you could tell that it was inspired by Donald Trump's Art of the Deal book, where he's like in the same pose. We'll find that and show it to our viewers.
Yeah.
But definitely, yes, Superman's villain for a while was basically bald Donald Trump.
Oh my God, bald Donald Trump.
Okay, so for my third pick, because I could go all day with favorites and just get up to the year like 1990.
Mhm.
So the third one is really cool. We've already talked about Spider-Man. We've talked about Superman. So who does that leave? But Batman.
Yes, Batman.
Batman, Volume 1, issues 426 to 429, a storyline called A Death in the Family.
Ooh.
Now,
That's like
doesn't
all
that sound
he deals with.
right?
His whole life, just death everywhere.
Isn't that an ominous title, though?
Mm-hmm.
This
like
is one
it.
that a lot of people have heard about. The repercussions of it still affect comics to this day in the stories. It came out in 1988, right around the time I started collecting. It involves the death of the second individual to be Robin, Jason Todd,
Mm-hmm.
at the hands of the Joker.
Yes, I know that storyline. I don't know it like in detail, but I know of it.
You're aware of it?
I'm aware of it. Which
So a little backstory is in the early 80s, Dick Grayson, that character had been Robin since 1939 or 1940. So we're talking over 40 years. He had gradually aged and evolved, because he started out as like a 10-year-old kid, maybe, to the point where he got to be about 18 or so in the early 80s. He'd become a member of the New Teen Titans and was kind of forging his own path. And he had decided that he wasn't sure if he wanted to keep on going as a superhero. So he said he was going to take a break for a while. In the meantime, Bruce Wayne had taken on a new younger ward named Jason Todd, who was an orphan as well. And all of a sudden it seemed natural, like, we need a Robin, and I have this new kid, like he could be the next Robin. And Dick Grayson eventually ended up deciding to go back to being a superhero, but with a new identity as Nightwing.
Oh, Nightwing. Okay, yeah.
So you know Nightwing?
I know of Nightwing. I don't know the particulars, but I know of these characters.
Right. So that's where Nightwing came from. That's really the original Robin. And this new kid took over, And you know what it did was it brought like a youthful vibe back to the Robin character. He wasn't older anymore. He was like early teens. A lot of readers didn't like him that much. They thought he was kind of bratty.
And that's why they killed him off.
You're not going to believe what led to this. It's a really funny story. That's part of it. He wasn't popular with the readers. So they started, the writer at the time was a guy named Jim Starlin. They started moving Jason Todd in a direction where he was starting to want to go his own way and do things his way. And like, he was a little more brutal than Bruce Wayne was. Like, there was a story where it was implied that Jason Todd killed a guy, but Jason said it was an accident. But, you know, Batman, like, he'll beat up guys, but he won't kill anybody. He won't go that far.
Right.
So it's like all of a sudden he started getting a little unhinged. So the death in the family storyline was him finding out that who he believed was his mom really wasn't his birth mother. It was his adopted mom. So he goes off on a quest to find his real mom. But then the Joker ends up getting involved and beats him with a crowbar and then blows him up with a bomb.
Oh.
So savage.
Lovely. That is very savage. Dang.
Here's the twist. And this is what I was getting at earlier about funny story about the readers. Mm-hmm. At the end of the issue that ends with an explosion, they had an ad for a 1-900 number. And it's like, is Robin going to die? You make the choice. If you want Robin to live, call this number. If you want Robin to die, call this number.
Wow.
Guess who won? They actually turned it into a reader's poll.
Wow, and then everybody voted for him to die?
It was from what I understand, it was a close vote, like under 100 votes maybe or something like that.
Wow. That's kind of savage. Like it.
I know. They had artwork prepared for him living. Like, I've seen the black and white artwork where Batman finds him and he's like, he's alive.
He's alive.
So the urban legend has always been that some guy who wanted him to die had an auto dialer, one of those machines that keeps calling the same number over and over again. And that's what caused it to happen.
That's funny.
That was a cool story, definitely.
Yeah, that's funny. I didn't know that they had like a reader poll to see if he lived or died.
It was the first time they'd ever done anything like that. Yeah.
Huh.
And that was a big deal for me at the time. It was like, wow, Batman's by himself now, because my whole life had always been Batman and Robin. Mm-hmm. And I remember that being
a solo act.
Yep. Until a year or two later when he got the third Robin, Tim Drake. But we'll go into the history of Robins in another episode.
That'd be a good episode. Just Robin-centric. I like it.
Robin.
Just all Robin all the time.
That's right. We'll even throw in Robin Williams, because what the hell?
Oh, I love Robin Williams.
Oh, I do too. All right. So we do have, for our Knowledge is Power segment, we do have a question this week from somebody that you know pretty well, someone named Wyatt.
Oh, what a coincidence. Yes, our our one question is from my lovely Wyatt.
All right. So Wyatt's question was, did Poison Ivy and Superman ever get together?
Oh, that's a good question. I don't know that one. Did he? Did they?
They did get together once.
Oh, they got together one time.
It was in a storyline, the Batman storyline called Hush. Mm-hmm. And what had happened was Poison Ivy wore kryptonite lipstick.
Ooh.
So she was able to kiss him and then do her mind control thing with the pheromones and all that and make him her slave for an issue.
Nice.
Right?
She's so badass.
I know.
Ivy is so badass. Yeah.
She's so sexy.
She is. See, I didn't know that, but that's really cool that she would do that. I think my favorite storyline would be when that Ivy and Harley Quinn, later got together as like a couple. And I think that's really more, it's a better pairing, I think, than like Harley Quinn and the Joker, because their relationship is
Yeah, their relationship was super toxic. So that's what I like about Harley and Poison Ivy, because it's like it's a safe space for them to be together as like two people mutually respecting each other and treating each other right after what Harley had been through. Like it's a really good pairing, I think.
Yeah. And don't they do some good when they're together, or they help like a young girl or something like that?
Yeah, they're not as into the criminal stuff.
Yeah.
They're not as much into that. Yeah.
So that's really cute that they would get together and be more of a healthy relationship. And they're just so dang cute together. Harley Quinn and Ivy.
Yeah. I like the color motif. The green, the white, the black. It's all good together.
It is all good together. They blend very well. The blend.
That is correct.
Very cool. Well, that was a great question. I love that.
Yeah. Thank you, Wyatt.
Thank you, Wyatt. Oh. Sitting right there.
So anything else nerdy you want to talk about? Or have we exhausted our nerdness for the week?
I think I'm good. Is there anything else that you want to add?
No, just that I've now watched 3 episodes of the new Superman and Lois show.
Oh,
Folks, if you haven't seen it, check it out. It's awesome.
That might be what one of our upcoming episodes is about. So if you want to kind of
hint.
If you're excited and you love that Superman and Lois show and you want to talk about it with us, in one of our upcoming shows that's going to be Superman centric. So stay tuned for that.
That's right.
And if anybody else has any questions for our Knowledge is Power segment, go ahead and comment below or shoot us a message on Instagram or whatever, or if you know us, just talk to us and we'll put it on there for you. But yeah, so I think that's what we have for today, and it's so much fun. I love my measly little comic stack. It's great. But if you like what you see, just go ahead and like and subscribe, and we'll be here for you every week. So Jason, that leaves one more question for you. Am I a nerd now?
Not quite. There is still more to learn, young small billion. Until next time.
Nerd your heart out.
Yeah.